Hey, good morning, guys. This is Kevin Stoto on the porch, and I hope you're having a great day. Over the weekend, I was rereading some material about English and how it got to be the way it is. English language is language. Bryson wrote a book called "The Mother Language, the Mother Tongue, and How It Got That Way," some 30 plus years ago. And I was a new um, or a younger teacher of German by that time. I'd also taught in Germany. I taught in uh, English as a foreign language in Germany, and so I was quite interested in the topic. And it's influenced me. I came across some quotes from the books the other day, and I wanted to share some with you. Um, Bryson lives in England, but he's an American, and so he's been writing books like every that tell you that about science and the world and our life, and books about particular places. But he's usually combines his the fact that he's American, he's living abroad. Uh, and one quote he surely when he wrote that book, and I do hope he updates the book, The Mother Tongue English and How It Got That Way, um, is by Hugo Schuchart, a German man of words. He said there are no unmixed languages, and this is important to understand because a lot of countries think that their languages are theirs. Even Americans who should know better. Um, there are so many English. Just the other day, I came across some signs, and I said, "That's not how we used to spell those words," but it seems to be the sign of the time to take a S and make a Z, and that sort of thing. Um, when people talk, said Bill Bryson, people don't talk like this. They talk like this. And what he means is this: they talk like this. They don't separate the words, and yet the listener is supposed to realize people don't talk like this, but people they talk like this with no separation really between them. Syllables, words, and sentences run together like a watercolor left in the rain. To understand what anyone is saying to us, we must separate these noises into words and the words into sentences so that we might, in our turn, issue a stream of mix. What we say is suitably apt and amusing. The listener will show his delight by emitting a series of uncontrolled high-pitched noises accompanied by sharp intakes of breath of the sort normally associated with a seizure or a heart failure. That's a belly laugh, I think. And by these means we converse. Talking when you think about it is a very strange business indeed. And you got to thank God for putting that together. So not just English, but any language has that particular fact to it. It's got an interpretation and a signal. Uh, at a conference of sociologists in America in 1977, love was defined as the cognitive affective state characterized by intrusive and obsessive fantasizing concerning reciprocity of amourant feelings by the object of the amorance. That is jargon. That's the language of science, the practice of never calling a spade when you might instead call it a manual earth restructure is a manual earth restructuring implement and is one of the greatest curses of the modern English. I wonder if other languages have that problem. Good question. Now, let's talk about history. Go back to the beginning. We got Cro-Magnon or Cro-Magnon people, excuse me. These Cro-Magnon people were identical to us. They had the same physique, the same brain, the same looks, and unlike all previous hominoids, choke on food. This may seem a trifling point, but the slight evolutionary change that pushed man's larynx deeper into his throat and thus made choking a possibility also brought with it the possibility of sophisticated, well articulated speech. Other animals have no contact between the air passage and esophagi. They can breathe and swallow at the same time, and there is no possibility of food going down the wrong way. But with the Homo sapiens, food and drink must pass over the larynx on the way to the gullet, and thus there is a constant risk that some will be inadvertently inhaled. In modern humans, the lowered larynx isn't in position from birth. It descends sometime between the ages of 3 and 5 months. Curiously, the precise period when babies are likely to suffer from sudden infant death syndrome. Larynx explains why you can speak and your dog cannot. I don't know. My dog can speak. I don't have a dog. My sister does. Communicates all kinds of things, but you're right. I don't know. Depends on how you define speech, Mr. Bill Bryson. I think birds are always talking to each other, at least in my neighborhood. Now, since Bryson are British pub names, other people are content to dub their drinking establishment with pedestrian names like Harry's Bar and the Greenwood Lounge. But a Briton, when he wants to sub ale, must find his way to the Dog and Duck, the Goose and the Firkin, the Flying Spoon, or the Spotted Dog. The names of Britain's 70,000 or so pubs cover a broad range, running from the inspired to the improbable, from the deaf to the daft. Almost any name will do so long as it is at least faintly absurd, unconnected with the name of the owner, and entirely lacking in any suggestion of drinking, conversing, and enjoying oneself. At a minimum, the name should puzzle foreigners. This is a basic requirement of most British institutions anyway, and ideally it should excite long and inconclusive debate, defy all logical explanation, and evoke images that border on the surreal. So, you have a pub that's named something that's not related to drinking or eating. And then you find the next pub the same way. Isn't it a little boring after a while? It could be to a great extent it has in England. And why is that? Are these people different? Or is the language different? Americans really love alliterations. Maybe the British do too. Whereas the food debris of the Neanderthals shows a wide variety of animal bones, suggesting that they took whatever they could find, archaeological remnants from Homo sapiens show that they sought out particular kinds of game and tracked animals seasonally. All of this strongly suggests that they possessed a linguistic system sufficiently sophisticated to deal. Today, let's kill some red deer. You take some big sticks and drive the deer out of the woods, and we'll stand by the riverbank with our big spears and kill them as they come down towards us. By comparison, Neanderthal speech may have been something like this: I'm hungry, let's hunt. I don't know. I think that they were every bit as smart as the other guys. The poet Robert Browning caused considerable consternation by including the word twat in one of his poems, thinking it an innocent term. The work was Pipa the World. It also contains disconcerting passage. Then owls and bats, cows and twats, monks and nuns in a cloister mood, adjourned to the oak stump pantry. Browning had apparently somewhere come across the word twat, which meant precisely the same then as it does now, but pronounced it was flat A, and somehow took it to mean a piece of headgear. A soft A would be twat. Twat. Okay, so let's read that again. Then owls and bats, cows and twats. Okay. Anyway, I won't get into that. The verse becomes a sort of twittering amusement for generations of schoolboys and perennial embarrassment to their elders. But the word was never altered, and Browning was allowed to live out his life in wholesome ignorance because no one would think of a suitably delicate way of explaining his mistake to him. Maybe about our mother tongue. It started somewhere in Germany and mixed with English and well, whatever they spoke in England, and then French and lots of other languages. More recently, during the debate in the House of Lords in 1978, one of the members said, "If there is a more hideous language on the face of earth than the American form of English, I should like to know what it is." We should perhaps bear in mind the powerless, non-elective institution. It is an arresting fact of the British political life that a Briton can enjoy a national platform and exalted status because he is the residue of an illicit coupling 300 years before between a monarch and an orange seller. Hmm. I hope you understand Bill Bryson's humor. And in any case, I suggest you read some of his works. A little bit of everything, I think, would be a good start, as well as his book, The Mother Language. I'm sure he needs to update it, but maybe you could if you collect your own stories to tell. All right. Thank you for participating and listening to this Kevin Stoda channel this morning, as I shared a little bit of my musings on the mother language. I will say, years ago when I was in Japan, I took this book of his, and I wrote a paper called "The Abusive Language" or "The Abusive Language," and I meant it as a critique of how other cultures sometimes absorb words from one language and use it, like on their T-shirts and products, and they're not aware of what other people think or feel about them, especially native speakers, whoever they are. The reason I say native speakers is because if you're a native speaker then from Hong Kong, and if you're a native speaker of English from South Bend, Indiana, you're quite a different native speaker than you are from Laredo, Texas. So depending on which native speaker you are, you might interpret songs and tunes and words and phrases quite differently. Even slang vocabulary can be treated as formal vocabulary in some languages, which is quite confusing to us all. I hope that you get to travel around the world and get to know this about the English language. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. I felt years after I had written that article called "The Abusive Language" or "Abusive Language," abuse of language or abusive language, that's what we're talking about, that I was too critical of the Japanese. It wasn't tolerant of the faithfully, and art is a way of communicating. But at the same time, it does show an area where miscommunication can happen between cultures, where somebody's language may, if used in English, be offensive, and people need to be aware of it. I'll try to work on that too. I work in a very multicultural America, and misunderstandings are happening a lot these days, so we'll work on that. Any stories from your side? If you do, let me know. Again, if you want to look up the goal, it was published in the JET magazine for the Japanese Exchange Teacher Association. And I'll see if I can come up with it too. In the meantime, thanks for listening. You're on the porch with Kevin Stoda. If you have any questions and like this topic, let me know. Give it a thumbs up, and we'll talk about it later. Have a good day. Oh yes, don't forget to subscribe. This is the Kevin Stoda channel.